Hello and welcome to Morning Brew on Hughes of the World this morning. I'm Graham Hughes. Nice to have you with us. In the chat, we have James, we have Simon Smith, we have Witchy Wisdom, we've got Elle and Diz, and Jenny and Katrina. Hey, how you all doing this morning? Hope you're all right. If you'd like to join our friends in the chat, just hit the subscribe button. I'm really sorry for starting so late this morning. My partner's not been well, so I was up most of the night helping her out. But I'm here now. That's the main thing. So today we're going to be talking about Jason Arday. This is going to be quite a heavy subject, and it might be quite triggering for some of our regulars. So please look. There's no obligation on you to watch these shows if it's a topic that you might find particularly upsetting. I find this whole thing uniquely upsetting, and the way that the media, in particular the Spectator and other newspapers, have went after Jason Arday with a zeal that they reserve entirely for black people or Asians is it's just really grim. It's just really, really, really grim. So yeah, thanks to everyone dropping into the chat. We'll talk about some of the other news stories that are going on at the moment. Morning, Raymond. Everyone says GM lovely. Wishing Cat a speedy recovery. Yeah, I think it was bit too much heat. But yeah, lots and lots of ice, lots of water. Okay, so the question I want to ask this morning, and we want to have a discussion about this, so please put your thoughts into the chat, but obviously be respectful. Jason Arday was found dead in his home in Battersea yesterday, a little more than a week after resigning from Cambridge University. Police describe his death as unexpected but not suspicious, for which we can infer that he took his own life. His family have said that he endured a sustained campaign of abuse, harassment, and misinformation since becoming Cambridge's youngest black professor in 2023, and that it all become too much for him. And I want to dig into that today. Wheels, Darren, thank you very much. Hope Cat's feeling better soon. Thanks very much, Wheels. That's very kind of you. I'll use that. I'll use that couple of quid to get her something nice. get a croissant for breakfast or something. Thanks very much. That's very kind of you. So there are questions to be asked about Jason Arday's PhD, aspects of his CV, his fundraising claims, parts of his public biography, and he had acknowledged making some mistakes. He denied deliberate plagiarism, and his thesis had gone through a detector to see if it had been plagiarized, and it was found not to have been. I think it was John Moores University looked into that. But my argument is going to be, did that really matter? Did it matter that much? And this is where we see time and time again the hypocrisy of the racist right, the sheer hypocrisy of them saying nothing to see here. The Daily Mail, after the report into the partying at number 10 while we were in lockdown, the report came out and it said, is that it? 20 parties held when we were all locked down. Is that it? None of any of Jason Arday's mistakes, if he had made them, required turning an academic into a national object of ridicule and driving him to take his own life. And there was only one reason why they went after him and not after the other many professors and academics now and in the past who have made mistakes, shall we say. The difference is this guy was black. And we live in a racist country. It's as simple as that. I mean, look at this. I'm just going to bring up a group of headlines from the Spectator newspaper. Spectator News. It's not a newspaper, is it? Magazine. Right, here we go. Professor Arday is the gift that keeps giving. Why progressives were desperate to believe Jason Arday. The Jason Arday debacle is becoming a national scandal. Jason Arday quits Cambridge, brackets, finally. Fact check the many claims of Jason Arday. How Black Lives Matter created Jason Arday. Why my father would have seen through Arday's nonsense. Sociology is about much more than fools like Jason Arday. Should the police investigate Jason Arday? Jason Arday and the Dukes and Dolphins of DEI. Meet Jason Arday's Cambridge colleague, Farah Ahmed. Why are we meeting her? Is there a particular reason why we want? And then finally, Jason Arday found dead at Battersea Address. And that's just one. That's just one of the many right-wing periodicals that plague the public consciousness of this nation. Absolutely plague them, dripping poison into the minds of I mean, I want to say just the dickheads, but it's not. It's everyone. You know, this language that they used here wasn't a consistently dry investigation. Toby Cunting Young, the guy whose daddy made a phone call to get him into Oxford. I didn't get the grades to go into Oxford, but daddy made a call. A man who has changed his own Wikipedia page more times than you have changed your underwear. He described Arday as a DEI poster boy. This is a guy whose dad made a phone call to get him into one of the top universities in the world, even though he didn't have the grades. Toby Young also compared his story to a Sacha Baron Cohen creation. Tom Slater's piece after his resignation said Cambridge had traded academic rigor for phony virtue. That's a quote. And at what point does legitimate reporting turn into a pile-on? I mean, I'll leave this up to you, but that looks to me like a pile-on. There's probably more stories in The Spectator about this one professor in one college in Cambridge than there have been about Nigel Farage and his 5 million, at least in The Spectator. Why does the story require article after article after article? Why was Black Lives Matter and DEI, which isn't even a thing in the United Kingdom, repeatedly dragged into allegations that were ostensibly about plagiarism? But what's it got to do with DEI? That's an American thing. We don't have positive discrimination in this country. We don't have it. We don't have affirmative action. We don't have it. We don't have DEI. It's not even called DEI in this country. And why was one of his Cambridge colleagues turned into another Spectator story? You know, Farah Ahmed. Why was she brought into it? Was race incidental? No. You've got to be really fucking thick, really naive to believe that race didn't play a part in this. You know, Arday wasn't simply a professor accused of plagiarism. by a racist, by the way. He was repeatedly framed as Cambridge's youngest black professor, a beneficiary symbol of DEI, and evidence of what supposedly happens when universities pursue racial equality. This is what happens. This is what they'll cheat, they'll lie, because they're like that, aren't they? I mean, one of those headlines is how Black Lives Matter created Jason Arday, making a ideological connection that isn't fucking there. And they've taken one guy's actions and said that Arday wasn't merely wrong. His success supposedly demonstrated that diversity itself was a fraudulent philosophy. And of course, the journalists can investigate people, but like this, to this extent. Do you remember Dr. Gillian McKeith was her name, I think? The poo doctor? She called herself doctor, and she wasn't a fucking doctor. It got blown up by the guy who did the Ben Goldacre, who did the bad science column in the Guardian years ago. That she had a correspondence PhD from some fictional university in America, and she had to take the word doctor. I thought that was barely covered. She wasn't hounded to this by the press. She was hardly hounded at all. The right-wing press hardly touched it. And the question remains, what would a white professor accused of the same things become a weeks-long national culture war fixation about whether people who are black deserve a place in Cambridge? And this led to an online pile-on. Like, I want to say like we've never seen, but we have seen this before, with Meghan Markle. We'll come to that in a minute. But once Arday was turned into a proxy for Black Lives Matter, for DEI, racial equality, online abuse was entirely predictable from people who'd never been to Oxford or Cambridge, to people who'd never been to university. In fact, people who'd passed their 11 plus and then left school a year later, and that's all they ever needed to know. They left school in the 1950s, 1960s. That's all they needs to know, and that's all they needs to be taught. I've shown a map of the world with all the British bits in pink. And we're told we, amongst all nations, stood up against the Nazis and won the Second World War on our own, without the help of, Jamaica, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Ghana, Nigeria, people in the Commonwealth countries. There's 50 Commonwealth countries, mate, all over the world, without the help of America somehow, without the help of the French resistance, who are absolutely critical in making D-Day a success. But yeah, we did it on our own. That's what they were told. They could barely read, barely write, barely do sums, and then they were kicked out into the world and told, "You're a genius." And they became instantly suspicious of anyone who pursued academia. Someone who not to be trusted. Don't trust the boffins. Don't trust the experts. They're all trying to con you. But this is how the modern culture war machine works. Identify an individual, make them symbolic of an entire political grievance, produce content about them relentlessly, and allow thousands of online supporters and millions of bots to do the rest. It's really fucking grim, And don't forget, his family statement, Arday's family statement, said that the abuse had followed him from the moment of his Cambridge appointment 3 years ago, not merely from the emergence of this summer's plagiarism allegations. Is that Toby Young, who once boasted of his cocaine habit, who coasted into third-rate journalism and then bounced into the House of Lords? Yes. Yeah, the same one whose daddy made a phone call to get him into fucking Oxbridge. I think he went to Oxford. Being trans and part of a minority is constantly the subject of ridicule, hate, classed as a threat to society, and classed as a pervert. My depression is through the roof, and I'm suicidal right now. Oh, Sarah, sending massive love to you. And like I say, look, your mental health has got to come first. Just know that you are not alone. There are thousands, tens of thousands of other people, maybe hundreds of thousands of other people, who are being treated this way by the press, by the right wing press, by the fucking gobshites online, by the social media barons who allow all kinds of horrific nonsense to get put on and posted. It's really cruel stuff. And I'm just so sorry. I'm just so sorry. But no, Sarah, you've got a little community here that love you. All right, and you are very much part of this community. And we like seeing I like seeing your name pop up in the chat, and I like what you got to say. And please don't ever think that you're not wanted, or that the world would be better off without you. It absolutely would not. It absolutely would not. We need more people like you, Sarah, and fewer people like Toby fucking Young, and Nigel fucking Farage, and Donald fucking Trump, and Benjamin Netanyahu fucking Yahoo, and Vladimir fucking Putin. These people, they just hate. They just hate. They are bullies. They are sinister. They are disgusting. They're gruesome people, and they're individuals, by the way. I'm not going to say that all orange people are bad. There are some Oompa Loompas who are lovely, you know. I'm not going to say that all people who have the surname Netanyahu are bad. I've never met another one, but, you know, might not run in the family. But what they do is they'll take one person, one black professor, and say he represents all of the all black people, all black academics are represented by this one person. And Dennett Lane says to Sarah, "I'm sorry going through that. I hope you have people around you who love you." Well, we love Sarah. We love Sarah. So yeah, it's always nice to have Sarah in the chat, joining in with the conversation. But like I said at the top of the show, if this is getting a bit much, obviously talking about this, we have our knockabout stuff on Friday nights and things. Just tune into that. It's because this is obviously it's not the happiest of stories, is it? Because the bad guys won again. The bad guys fucking won. When I was a kid, I thought it'd be great to see a movie where the bad guys won. The bad guys were getting away with it. That'd be fucking amazing. Because the goodies always win in movies, right? No, just once. Let's let the baddies win. So they did. They made the movie Chinatown. And sorry, spoilers, but the baddies win. And all I was left with I was just left with this raging sense of injustice. And I never want to see that again. I never want to spend 2 hours of my life having these evil characters built up to a point where you're like, oh God, can't wait for them to get their comeuppance. And they don't. Forget it, Jake. It's Chinatown. Starese says, apparently on LinkedIn, there's now loads of white professors talking about the funding they've received based on applications they co-authored with Jason, yet all were quiet in the last few weeks. Yeah. Oh, Sarah says, thank you. Thanks, Graham. Thank you, everyone. I feel loved here. You absolutely are, Sarah. I love having you as part of our little community here on the internet where it's great, isn't it? It's like a troll-free zone. And we've got the wonderful Diz, who I've met in real life, to just stomp on anyone who even might be a whiff of a troll about them. No, not having them. Don't need them. It's all right. This is a forum for discussion. I'm not debating facts. I'm not debating whether the world is round or the sky is blue or whatever else. I'm not. It's exhausting. I'm exhausted. I've been online for 30 years now. 30 years ago, I got my first email address. And I probably got my first email chain mail where someone sent me send this on to 10 people and you'll get good luck for the rest of your days. And here's some bullshit that you need to tell them. And in other news, Nigel is very quiet after winning his seat back. Wonder why he's gone home. Can't be anything to do with his investigation reopening, surely. That's hidden that, yeah. He won at 6 o'clock. And by 9 o'clock, the investigation into his wrongdoings was reopened. The right don't have the courage to not frame themselves honestly. They believe Black lives don't matter. It's not anti-woke. It's pro-prejudice. It isn't DIA prejudice, discrimination, exclusion. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Ernie. You're absolutely right. It is. This is what they do. This is what they do. And even I, like, we'll talk about the gammon. I'll talk about the private school mafia. But even I have to have a button that says not all boomers to come up when I talk about older people, because I understand and appreciate. And it's not just a joke. I mean, it genuinely isn't all boomers. My mum's a boomer and she's amazing, okay? She's very liberal. she's a raging lefty, just like me. There are a lot of people who fit to a stereotype of bigotry and cruelty and sadism. There's a level of sadism to this as well. Now, look, I've got to be quite clear. I think that we'll get to this, but I think that the media is the reason why Jason Arday is no longer with us, right? As far as I'm concerned, the way the media is set up in this country is abominable. It's absolutely abominable. They mark their own homework. They decide for themselves what's right and what's wrong. And we're going to come to this. But Cambridge does have questions to answer too, Cambridge originally defended Arday, but subsequently opened up investigations after further allegations emerged. And there's an independent inquiry looking at his appointments and tenure. And there were serious shortcomings that existed in the appointment process. Why weren't they discovered before he was appointed? And once the situation had become a national feeding frenzy, what duty of care did Cambridge have towards an employee plainly under extraordinary pressure? And I don't want institutional failings to become an excuse for the abuse that Arday faced, but Cambridge potentially failing in recruitment or supervision does not legitimize this personal harassment that we saw in the press. However, they need to do better too. David Faulkner, thank you so much for the 78 Hong Kong dollars. It's really kind of you, mate. Cheers for that. Simple types are often suspicious of academic high intelligence because it feels like a threat to their personal self-worth. It disrupts their understanding of group norms and challenges their comfortable beliefs. Yeah. But no one ever has a problem with the pilot. No one ever, says, I don't want this person flying the plane. They think they're all high and mighty knowing how to fly a plane. Training for years on how to fly a plane. How dare they? How very dare they? James is freaking out about the boat race. Well, Colin says, my daughter's in a relationship with a trans woman. I'm an ally, but I always ask my daughter if I might be showing signs of a product of my upbringing. The community cares, says Colin. That's great. I'm happy for your daughter. And also, I'm happy that you're looking at yourself. And I try and do this myself. I try and check myself and say, is this okay? I'll run things by my friends. If I'm going to be talking about trans issues, I will run that by my friends who are trans. I'll talk to my friends who are black or friends who are Muslim or Jewish about tackling subjects that involve their groups in society, because I'm a middle-aged, middle-class, fucking cis white Jesus fucking twat from Liverpool. Do you know what I mean? Like a male cis. Of all the world, I live in like the Truman Show. I live in as a 5'10" white, academically gifted, gift of the gab, whatever you want to call it, white male. I'm so fucking privileged. It hurts. I am so privileged, and I acknowledge that. I do acknowledge that, and I don't think that I work hard. I don't think I work harder than anyone else. I really don't. I think there's loads of people who work way harder than what I do. And I'm not jealous of people's success. When people go, you're always ranting about the rich doing this and the rich doing that. And, it's the or what do they call it? The politics of envy. I'm not envious of them. If they want to buy a disgusting fucking painting by some twat artist from the second half of the 20th century and put it up in their fucking bedroom, I don't give a fuck. I don't care if they've got 17 cars. I grew up around cars. I've driven fucking Jaguar E-types. I've driven sports cars. I've driven a Mazda MX-5 through the fucking the Alps. I've ridden the Royal Enfield around the Pole. Like I've done it. It's fine. There's nothing that rich people can do in their everyday lives that I haven't done. I've been to Wimbledon. I've been to Wembley. I've been to the fucking Grand Prix. So, the life that I've been in a helicopter. I've been in I wouldn't say I've been in a private jet, but I've had a jet plane pretty much to myself and 3 friends because they didn't sell that many tickets. But the way things turned out, I've been on a seaplane. I've been on cruises. I've had VIP experiences at gigs and festivals and all this kind of stuff. There's nothing in their material everyday life that I have a problem with. I'm not jealous of that. For fuck's sake, how could it be? I've got a fucking island, for Christ's sake. And also I've got, wonderful friends and family who I love, who, are always there for me. And I hope that I'm always there for them. My life, generally speaking, is pretty good. What I don't like is people with money making our lives a fucking misery, making the lives of my friends, my beautiful friends, my trans friends, my black friends, my Asian friends, making their lives a fucking misery, using their money to make their lives a misery through the newspapers they own, or the TV stations, or the media platforms that they own, social media. That's what I got a problem with. If they use their money to do something fucking stupid, like burn a load of rockets, then yeah, I'm going to laugh at them and say, what the fuck? But when they use their money to get into the American government, and they use that money to make sure that they can shut down any kind of program that gives food and medicine to babies, newborn babies in Malawi and Mozambique and Ghana and in Uganda, no, fuck off. Fuck all the fucking way off. Get out of there. What are you doing? When Trump goes into the Oval Office to bloody enrich himself, fuck off. And yeah, we'll laugh at his tat. We'll laugh at his gold fucking, Thai restaurant chic shite. Just really fucking grim. Hidden Knight says, I remember when Anne died and the comments related to her disabled, but Jason's Novak's related to her was disabled, but Jason's Novak's or PC Harbour's weren't. Oh, that's interesting as well. I blame social media sites like Facebook and Twitter too. Yeah, Hidden Knight, absolutely. We need to ban Twitter in this country. It's not good for the mental health of the country. We're going to be focusing on having a mental health service, some kind of a service that stops people from getting into these pits of depression. A machine that chugs out fucking targeted insults, calling everyone who disagrees with someone a paedophile, dredging up horrible things about them that, sort of dug up from the past and saying, oh, look at this. It's just horrible. A national feeding frenzy. And that's what Twitter is, day in, day out. I really recommend, if anyone of you who's still on Twitter, please. I can't tell you what to do. You are free to make your own decisions. But at the end of the day, I can't see it being good for your mental health to be on there. Whatever justifications you have for getting your message out or whatever, there are other platforms available. I'm not saying you have to go back to MySpace, but God, the fucking innocent days of MySpace compared with this. Here's what's happened. Here's what I think about it. Then again, I run a show every day where I basically do that. Maybe I'm to blame as well. But we've seen this before. Meghan Markle. From the moment Meghan Markle's relationship with Harry became public, Harry complained publicly about racial undertones, harassment, intrusion at the coverage of it. Meghan later described reaching the point of suicidal thoughts while she was pregnant. And thankfully, thank goodness she left. She got out of here. They left their royal duties behind, established a life in California. And a British court later ruled that the Mail on Sunday had unlawfully breached Meghan's privacy by publishing her private letter to her father. The Court of Appeals upheld her victory. The newspapers went after Meghan like a dog after a fox. It was fucking relentless. It was absolutely fucking relentless. And it still is, there's still, if they ever come to the UK, they're still on the front page of the newspapers. Oh, how dare they? How did she do this? How dare she done that? But at least she's out the worst of it now. But they were trying to drive her to suicide. In the same way that they try to drive any celebrity that they, deem, someone who shouldn't have got, someone who's got ideas above their station, guilty of being black. And let's not forget, Meghan Markle is mixed race. Obama is mixed race as well. This racist holdover is just it's pathetic and painful that we're still here in 2026, freaking out because we still believe that one person in any given community represents all of them. If you go on the privateschoolmafia.com website, it says, disclaimer, at the top, some of my friends went to private school. Some of the people that I admire the most in the world went to private school. I'm not having a pop at everyone who went to private school, but there is an ungainly number of people on this list who are fucking gobshites, who've gone out their way to make our lives more difficult for no other reason than they're like, a cat playing with a mouse that it has no intention of eating, just torturing the poor creature, DDK 371. Thank you so much for the £5 super chat. Oh, what happened to the tolerant left? Fuck off, I'm the furious left. Yeah, I feel that as well. Here's a night. I'm pretty sure melted gold smells bad, like Trump loves gold, and it'd be funny because the smelting of gold stinks worse than Trump, and it acts like air freshener to mask Trump's stink. Yeah. People want to punish those who are public figures. They think they deserve it because they're caught at the media. Never be famous. Yeah. As you've said before, Sir David Faulkner, there's nothing wrong with aspiration for wealth from the rich. It's just their lust to see you remain poor that is simply offensive. Yeah. It's not enough for them to win. Everyone else has to lose. I enjoy seeing people do well. I really enjoy people having a good time. When you're out and you just you're dancing and you're having a nice conversation, or you're in the park and kids are playing, and there's a joy in that. There's a joy in other humans' joy. But for whatever reason, they say, what was the way that Charlie Brooker described it? People born with an important part of their soul missing. That's the way he described it. For some reason, there's some people out there and they see other people having fun, having a good time, not hurting anyone, not disrupting anyone, not being a twat about it, but just, having a nice time, keeping to themselves, being with the person they love, or people with, people they respect, or whatever, having a nice time. They see people having a nice time. And instead of thinking, oh, that's nice, they get enraged. They're like, how dare they? How dare they have a good time? And the reason is, I think there's a lot of very rich people who aren't having a good time. They've got serious mental health problems, and they are addicted to money in the same way that a heroin addict is addicted to heroin. And the way heroin addiction isn't just a thing. Well, no addiction really is a thing on the side. It becomes your whole life, whether it's a gambling addiction or alcohol addiction. It becomes your whole life. If you're an alcoholic, everything's about the next drink. Everything's about the next drink. If you're a sexaholic, it's about the next next conquest, your next sexual adventure. If you're a gambler, it's all about the next bet. You're working out in your head how many hours you have to work, how many things you have to do to get the money in your pocket to go and do that thing. It becomes all encompassing. And I think that money does the same thing to people. It's exactly the same thing. I think it's as addictive as crack cocaine. I have zero interest in making money. I just want to learn. It really seems to confuse those around me. Yeah. Also, those papers who attacked Meghan's mom and dad during the wedding to Harry, racist Tory papers, still bastards today. Yeah, still bastards today. We're all just mixed race, just a matter of degree and shape. Well, some of us are mixed fucking species. If you're white, you're watching this, you're white, yeah, you've got a bit of Neanderthal DNA in you, mate. You're fucking not just mixed race, you're mixed species. Mixed species. You're not a pure Homo sapien. If you want a pure Homo sapien, you got to go to Africa. He's on talking about racial purity of the human race. Yeah, that the people of Ethiopia. So there you go. I mean, the Arday tragedy makes me think about what would have happened to Meghan if she had stayed. I don't need to claim that editors were sitting around wishing for her death, but there's an episode of South Park where they try and hound Britney Spears to death. Do you remember this? Years ago, it was 20 years ago now. And they said we have to have a sacrifice to make the harvest come. Obviously it's a satire, but it's not far off, is it? The way we do that. Well, I say we do this. The way the press do this, and the way they get away with it. Sections of the British press treated Meghan Markle, as she was then, as a target to be pursued relentlessly. Negative Meghan stories became a profitable genre in their own right. It's all clickbait. Humiliation did not satisfy the appetite. It generated the next headline. And her obvious distress did not end the coverage. And thankfully, thank goodness, she got out, but in not in the same way that Jason Arday did. She got out of it. But when you have these newspaper stories put side to side, famously, there was one about Meghan Markle having a fucking artichoke or something. That wasn't an artichoke. What was it? Avocado. She ate an avocado pear, right? And the press were like, linked to West African fucking drug gangs or something. Do you know what I mean? And child labour. Meanwhile, there's a story a couple of years earlier about her sister-in-law, Catherine, and Catherine had eaten an avocado, and they were saying how great it was because it was good for the baby because I think she was pregnant at the time. There was a story about how Meghan Markle was always touching her baby bump, and is that narcissism? Is that narcissism that she keeps touching her baby bump? And there was exactly the same story about Catherine touching her baby bump when she was pregnant, and it's like, bonding between mother and her unborn child. And then the one that, I mean, they're all pretty bad, but the one that was just absolutely fucking just bonkers was the fact that there was a particular flower in the what's a bunch of flowers called? In the bunch of flowers, there's a word for it. I forgot what it is. I'm not all up on me flourishing. But I keep thinking of the word boutique. It's not boutique. That's a shop. What's the word? I can't remember. Anyway, you can tell this was live, can't you? She's carrying the bunch of flowers that the maids of honor or the bridesmaids had at Meghan Markle's wedding. The bouquet. That's it. Bouquet. Bouquet of flowers. Thank you. That didn't actually come up, but I'm sure someone's shouting it in the chat. It's a fucking bouquet, Graham. It's a bucket of flowers. Anyway, yeah, bouquet, bucket. Thanks, Ernie. Yeah, so and it had I think it was Lily of the Valley. I think it's the same. If you've watched Breaking Bad, you'll know about Lily of the Valley. Basically, it's poisonous if you fucking eat it. Right. So cool. In the newspapers, it was like, her bridesmaids, her little bridesmaids, would have died with this deadly flower, this particular flower that was deadly in the bouquet in the wedding, and it was like, okay. And then exactly the same flower was in the bouquet of Catherine's when Catherine got married to William. Was in the same, and it was like, oh, what a beautiful flower. Oh, symbolic of, a connection between Victoria and all this kind of shit. And you're just like, fucking hell. That is crazy, isn't it? Bucket bucket of flowers. Yeah. They have an agenda, says L. To them, the right is anyone who disagrees. Therefore, threatens their plan. When they go low, we don't go high. We stamp on them, says Jenny. I couldn't agree more. Jenny, my friend, I could not agree more. Who cares about politics when a guy is dead? Make stuff seem unimportant. He had 2 kids. Do they care about politics right now? No, they don't. My samurai. It's horrible. It's absolutely fucking horrible. It's because people see Markle as courting the media. They think she willingly put her head in the jaws of a tiger. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, they think she brought it on herself, and they'll say the same thing about Jason Arday. They're probably saying it now. I'm not in those parts of the internet. I don't want to depress the living shit out of myself. But Jason Arday's death forces the question: what exactly is supposed to stop one of these media pylons before someone is destroyed by it? What happened to Leveson? The original Leveson inquiry followed the phone hacking scandal and examined culture, practices, and ethics. Ethics of the press. There's an oxymoron for you. Ethics of the press. Leveson Part 2 was supposed to investigate unlawful conduct in news organisations and relationships between journalists and police. And the Conservative government in 2018, the Conservative government, which is pretty much owned by the right-wing media, it's a revolving door between people working for the right-wing Tory government and the right-wing Tory press. I mean, it's people going back and forth all the time. Section 40, part of the post-Leveson framework intended to encourage publishers into genuinely independent regulation, was subsequently repealed by the Media Act 2024. And the case for Leveson 2 now, the freedom of the press is not freedom from accountability. Journalists must be able to expose corruption, dishonesty, plagiarism, whatever. But the public also needs protection against industrial scale intrusion, harassment, and campaigns in which individuals become content for days or weeks or months on end, and our newspapers and our media platforms become judge, jury, and executor of people who are just civilians. They're just people getting on with their lives. And then when we dare ask questions of the likes of Farage, it's like, oh, he's living rent-free in your head. Oh, you're always going about Farage. Oh, you always got... Guy who took £5 million off some corrupt bastard who lives in Thailand, who launders money for the fucking Russians. Launders money for the Russians so they can kill Europeans with their fucking drones and their tanks and their missiles. And self-regulation we have in the press at the moment, it has to answer a basic question here. What meaningful restraint existed in the Arday case? And a renewed inquiry at Leveson 2, I think that this should be Andy Burnham's response to what's happened. He should say, right, that's it. We're getting Leveson 2. We're getting the thing the papers don't fucking want. And it should not only look at illegality, but at the modern ecosystem of the papers that Leveson never confronted properly. Coordinated newspaper pylons, amplification through social media, radicalized culture war framing, repeated targeting of relatives and colleagues, the relationship between traditional outlets, commentators, and online mobs, hate mobs, employers' duties towards the people caught in these storms, and whether the existing complaints mechanisms provide any useful protection while the damage is actually happening. And the question isn't whether the newspaper shouldn't be allowed to investigate Jason Arday's claims, some of which were a little bit wild. Let's be honest about it. I mean, they absolutely should. But the question is, why investigating this one academic obsessively for weeks, multiple stories every day, turning into into a recurring entertainment franchise, tying his alleged failings to Black Lives Matter, towards diversity, equality, and inclusion, ridiculing him personally, and feeding a wider online campaign against a man who just yesterday couldn't bear it. We had Leveson because the British press demonstrated that it could not always be trusted to police itself. Jason Arday is a powerful reason to ask whether he made an enormous mistake by abandoning the job halfway through. And if anything, any glimmer of good can come out of this tragedy, it's got to be Leveson too. It's got to be. They need to bring it back and finish the fucking job and stop this from ever happening again. And if it does happen again, I want the people responsible to face justice for an online hate mob bullying a man to death for the crime of being black and in academia and not being perfect. Why aren't you perfect? The higher moral standard that we set for people from different backgrounds than the white, middle-aged, middle-class, fucking cisgender, heterosexual male, which we treat as the norm. It's not the norm. It's not the norm. Not the norm at all. It's like an episode of Black Mirror. Yeah, it absolutely is. Megan lives in America. The UK media stalks her Instagram and her business website. Yes, she sells nothing here. They stalk her events and friends in America. There's no reason. Yeah. Yep. Couldn't agree more. Stories. We've got Lost Mystery saying most media feeds off itself rather than cater for the customer. Unfortunately, the customer is not bothered enough, probably me included. People need to use the filter out of respect and look at it as being restricted, stroke censored. No, it's being polite and civil. Something that separates us from the animals. Said L. Yeah. Time for Labour to go forward at Leveson, says Colin. I agree. Why should they care? Why should they care? The media always attacks Labour anyway. Yeah. I mean, it's a win-win for Labour. It's like a no-brainer. This is what happened when people who have been brought up watching the shows like Jerry Springer and Jeremy Kyle show the whole look at these idiots, let's laugh and shame them so we can feel better. Yeah. It is the it is sad that we're living in this reality now. That this is the timeline. We're living in the Biff timeline. How did we end up here? And it's because we allowed rich people to get away with murder and thought that the institutions of our state would be enough to keep people in line. Yeah. Meanwhile, there's been another earthquake after the earthquakes in Venezuela and Colombia. There's now been one in Indonesia of 7.7 magnitude in Flores Island, which is... It's to the east of the main island of Java, and it's just above Timor. East Timor. So it's just a few miles north of the island of Timor. At least 20 people have been reported killed. Thousands fled towards higher ground. Flores is a Christian island. So Indonesia overall is Muslim, but you have islands that follow different religions, or areas that follow different religions. So Bali is Hindu. Flores is Christian, and West Papua is they follow West Papuan beliefs, animist beliefs. I think they're called animist beliefs. Meanwhile, there's been a story about 5 years of renewed Taliban rule, growing international diplomatic engagement with the Taliban, but at the same time, women's rights, girls' rights have been restricted horrifically, and millions of children are facing starvation under the Taliban. There's a story about the BBC reportedly received warnings about an author's claim to possess clothing connected to a murdered child, and there's been fresh questions about how the corporation handled this information. And obviously the BBC is another sort of whipping boy that the press love to go after, because they want to privatise it. They want to degrade it to a point where it has to go private to survive. And then once that happens, it'll Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk or the Oracle guy will swoop in and just buy the whole thing and turn it into a propaganda outlet like GB News or RT or Fox News over in the States. Meanwhile, Westminster Council are threatening the closure of a long-running homelessness food service, the Charing Cross Soup Kitchen, and the dispute centres on its operations in central London. Meanwhile, London's having a great stink, another great stink. So the original great stink was, I think, in the 1850s, and it's before the sewers were put in by Joseph Bazalgette, the greatest engineers of the Victorian era, or any era, to be honest with you. And but heat and exceptionally dry weather are leaving sewage stagnant in London's aging draining system. Experts say the smell is another warning that the Victorian era infrastructure is poorly adapted to climate extremes. All of our infrastructure is poorly adapted to climate extremes. All of it. Meanwhile, new analysis suggests that most users do not save enough on food to offset the cost of weight loss drugs. The overall financial savings may appear mostly with higher earners. There was another derailment. We covered this a little bit like yesterday, but there was a second derailment in East Sussex. 11 people were injured. There's been an Israeli strike in Lebanon. 7 people have been killed near Ansar in Lebanon, in southern Lebanon, and this is the worst single toll since June. The strife rumbles on, and also there was a story about 150,000 people leaving Israel over the last couple of years, and I thought this was a really interesting story because I've spoken in the past about how I think that if Israel was set up as a place for Jewish people to feel safe, it's a failure. And it's a failure because of Netanyahu. There's no reason why it had to turn out like this. But Netanyahu has created a state in which the people who live there worry constantly about being attacked. And the reason they feel that way is because they're under constant threat, because their government keeps attacking their neighbours, keeps attacking the people in Gaza, keeps going into the West Bank, stealing land, killing people, going, stealing, the settlers turning up with a Bible and a Torah and a Kalashnikov, and attacking Lebanon, attacking Iran, picking fights with their neighbours, and people are leaving. People are leaving. The dream that was Israel is falling apart because of the people in charge of Israel, because of the terrorists in charge of Israel right now. And that Israel, if it is to survive as a state, if you, I genuinely believe that if you want Israel to continue to exist, if you're an Israeli and you want Israel to continue as a thing, you need to get rid of Netanyahu. You've got to. The driver of, I'm not making an excuse for anti-Semites, they're fucking scumbags, they can go to hell. But Netanyahu is one of the biggest drivers of anti-Semitism since Adolf Hitler. He fucking is. And I know that there's a distaste in comparing him to the Moustache Man, but on purely the lines of the effect that his rhetoric is having on Jewish people all over the world. Is it that different? I don't think that it is. I really don't. Not just his rhetoric, but his actions. The actions of Netanyahu is making life very, very uncomfortable for my Jewish friends. And it's horrible. I fucking hate it. Miss Paula Thomas, thank you very much for the £10 super chat. My question over Jason Arday is different. How many of the Cambridge dons who questioned his credibility could have withstood a similar level of scrutiny? Well, yeah, you're absolutely right there. So the just to go back over this, I've got a list here. Right, for example, okay. So just to carry on Miss Paula Thomas's point, um, academic misconduct happens constantly, including misconduct substantially more serious than the allegations against Arday, right? And people fuck up, people make mistakes, people they hear a tune walking past a barber shop and then they play it on the guitar and then they get done for plagiarism when it becomes number one, right? Because they didn't realize they picked up that particular chord progression as they were walking past the barber shop, right? Um, the 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 the, there's been a number of academic situations of cases of academic misconduct, right? Which haven't become a national culture war obsession. Okay, for example, Yannick Girip, 8 papers retracted after a compromised peer review process. He had previously been summarily dismissed over invoice fraud, and an integrity investigation found fabrication or manipulation of data in at least one article. This was overwhelmingly specialist academic news territory rather than weeks of national character assassination. Brian Lucy, a Trinity College Dublin finance professor, lost 12 papers after Elsevier found that he had overseen the reviews and made the final decision to publish them in the journals that he edited. Again, serious academic integrity questions, but hardly a British culture war frenzy as a result. Etienne Klein, one of France's best-known science communicators, was stripped of his doctorate this year after a plagiarism investigation. Reporting says substantial proportions of his thesis contained copied material. It produced academic and science coverage, but not the kind of racial politics that morality play made out of, out of our day. And more broadly, academic fraud isn't some vanishingly rare aberration. 10,000 research papers were retracted in 2023 alone. 10,000. Were there 10,000 witch hunts? Were there? No. Like I say, the question isn't about whether Jason Arday deserved scrutiny. He absolutely did. He was a tenured professor, at one of the top universities in the world. The question is why this black professor's alleged wrongdoing became a national right-wing crusade against diversity itself. Well, academia itself contains an endless supply of misconduct cases. But this is also one of the great strengths of academia and scientific research, is that it is peer-reviewed. People are checking each other's homework all the fucking time. And if there's been a mistake, yeah, it happens. But in this case, they look at what the newspapers, look at what the media chose to emphasize, not just simply plagiarism, but it was that Cambridge's youngest black professor. It was about diversity, about DEI, as they call it, about race, and whether people like him, i.e., black people, belong in elite universities at all. Race wasn't incidental to the story. It was absolutely central to it. And if Arday was white, we wouldn't be hearing about this right now. And he certainly wouldn't have been hounded like this. His family said the hounding of the press had become unbearable. And Arday was autistic. And we know that autistic people regulate emotions differently to neurotypicals. And some of my dear friends are autistic, and I know how things like this can weigh on the minds of people. And one of the reasons I lost a friend of mine who I feel after the event probably was autistic, but he was never diagnosed, after some professional setbacks, he drank himself to not being with us anymore. And I think that's quite similar in this respect, that you've got a guy who's 41. He's, you know, he seems like a nice guy as well. Do you know what I mean? Didn't seem like a twat. Nice guy. And he made some like really, I mean, on the greater scheme of things, I mean, it does seem a little bit like OTT, the way that the reaction to the possibility that he might have plagiarized part of his thesis, which again, like I said, there was an investigation. They went, no. I mean, the plagiarism tools that they have on the internet obviously are a bit better than they used to be, but even back when he was doing his thesis a few years ago, he was still, that would still gets looked at for plagiarism. This stuff does get published. I just think it's so sad. It's so fucking sad. A vulnerable human being being turned into a national hate figure, and the consequences of that. And the newspapers want freedom, but they want freedom without consequence. I don't know if any of you've seen the TV show Fargo. So it's loosely based on the movie, set in the same sort of world as the movie from the 90s, the Coen Brothers movie. I'm gonna look it up because I don't want to. I don't want to get the quote wrong. So this is a woman who is she's the head, she's the CEO of a debt collection company that's makes billions collecting debt off people, and she goes up against, it's played by Jennifer Jason Leigh, and she goes up against John Hamm from Mad Men, who plays the bad guy in it. He plays this corrupt sheriff who's just evil, and the sheriff is very much a Trumper. He's very much a libertarian, the constitutionalist. He doesn't care about the law. He cares about right and wrong, but it's his right and wrong. And Jennifer Jason Leigh, so then this sort of very tense conversation between the sort of the matriarch of this family and this corrupt sheriff, and she says, "So you want freedom without responsibility?" And she says that there's only one person on earth who gets that deal. To which the John Hamm character says, "The president?" She says, "No, a baby." You are fighting for your right to be a baby. I was like, yeah. Frame that and put it in the Louvre. Next time someone talks about freedom, right? But what they really mean is freedom without responsibility. Point that out to them. There's only one person who gets freedom without responsibility in this world, and it's a baby. You're fighting for your right to be a baby. Yeah. Absolutely spot on. Hi guys, says Wake Up and Smell the Rosemaries. Hi, how you doing? We managed to get rid of our worst PM ever, Kia, but they still have Trump, says Hidden Light. They have a different system in America. They have a system where if you're the president, you stay president. And if you do something naughty, go out and just massacre a bunch of orphans, you might have to step down for being... Well, actually, you probably get away with it. I know Trump's got away with killing a lot of children around the world, millions. But yeah, even if it gets to the point where you get impeached. Oh no, I'm being impeached. Oh no, stop. It hurts. It's got to go to the Senate. And it's got to be a super majority in the Senate. Not just a simple majority, a super majority to actually, convict for impeachment, right? And they're never going to get it. And even if they look like they were going to, what you do is what Nixon did. You resign. Who takes over? The vice president. Is there another election? Is there? Fuck. There was an election in Makerfield, and the people of Makerfield overwhelmingly voted for Andy Burnham. Overwhelmingly. That's why he's our prime minister now. And I'm not saying our system's perfect. Far from it. It's better than the American system. Jesus Christ, it's better than the American system. I think about that a lot. You know, like public transport, motorways, health, education, the government, the politics in America. Like, I like our system better. And I'm not saying that our system is perfect by any stretch of the imagination, right? It is not. But it's better than America's. And the problem is with America is they're falling down the same hole that Britain fell down, probably in the 1960s, 70s sort of thing of this. And when we still thought we were the big I am. We thought that no other country could possibly do something better than us. And that arrogance was our downfall. It really was. That arrogance probably led to Brexit. No other country could do it as good as us. No other country can get trade deals with Comoros and St. Kitts and Nevis quite like Britain can. You know, that deal we got with Suriname and Bhutan, whew, bring it on. Writing as an academic, I can confirm Turnitin plagiarism checker is very sensitive, so we're more likely to identify falsely identify plagiarism. That's then subject to review than miss it. Yeah. If they impeach Trump for the treason, the VP goes with him and the Speaker of the House steps in. Yeah. Yeah, the VP takes over, but then the first thing the VP does is, like with Nixon, forgives the president, pardons the president for all the president's crimes. Crazy. That's why I think that Farage is so dangerous, and why we shouldn't count him out. Why we shouldn't say, "Oh, he's done for now." You know, his political career is over. No, they'll spin this. They'll spin this whole thing. You know, they're trying to make out like Camp Bin faces the establishment. Yeah. Trade deals. We only care about them when they affect pork markets. Pork markets. I need to get like a little animation that comes up here, don't I? Of what's her name? Liz Truss saying pork markets. But yeah, the VP goes with the post office. Yeah, but they don't. They just resign. So the president resigns, and the VP takes over. This is what happened with Nixon. Gerald Ford took over from Nixon, and the first thing he did as president, executive order, pardoning Nixon. And he was only threatened with impeachment. And then he sees out the rest of the term, no matter what. David says, this doesn't mean students are falsely accused, by the way, as we check to see where numbers come from. Most reported plagiarism is ignored as it references sections or very common phrases. Yeah. Shame on me for bad. That wasn't bad writing before impeachment. Yeah. Anyway, listen, I'm going to get going in a few moments. I've got to get on with stuff. I think we're going out this afternoon or something. I don't know. But depending on how I'm feeling, might do a show tonight. But I'll definitely be doing Sunday sermon tomorrow. So if you would like to join me for that, you're very welcome to do so. But in the meantime, give us a like if you've liked this content. If you haven't subscribed, you're watching this on Catch Up or something, please subscribe. You can join in the chat. Hit the bell notification if you haven't already done so, and that'll let you know when we're going live, because sometimes, life gets in the way. Life finds a way, and life also gets in the way. And for the next month, until the kids are back in school, basically, my schedule's going to be all skew-if. So, you bear with me. But if you've hit the bell notification icon, I promise to try and put out a bit of content each day, so we can come together and have a bit of a chat. And we'll be back to normal in September, I promise. And I'll be hopefully making some more non-live content then as well, because I'm going to need to, because I think I got me. I haven't been paid yet, but I got me figures in for July, and 800 quid for the month is not enough to that doesn't cover my debts, my debt repayments. So yeah, I need to crack on with tapping the old ad thing and making clickbaity thumbnails, which I don't really want to do. I don't want to do that. I like this. I like just having the live stuff, but it's not financially sustainable. So yeah, I had a good little chat with Phil yesterday after the show about finding better ways to monetize this, so it's not so reliant on your beautiful generosity, which is very kind of you. But we are a small group here on this channel, and I want to keep it going. I want to keep it going. Okay, so that's that. Oh, my mum's there. Hello, mum. Hello. Have a good day, everyone. Oh, there's my mum there in the chat. Thanks again, everyone. Have a good day and be kind to yourself and each other. Oh, that's really nice. That is really nice. Okay, so have a great rest of the day. Keep cool. Keep hydrated. Keep positive. The Nigel Farage and Netanyahu and Putin and Trump, they all have one redeeming feature, only one, but they all share it, and it's the fact they're mortal. And yes, friends, this too shall pass. And yeah, rest in peace, Jason Arday. He did not deserve that, not for one moment. Treated worse than we treat actual criminal scum who are trying to destroy this nation. And if Andy Burnham's got any fucking sense about him, he will say today, right, this can't happen again. Leveson 2. Do us a favour, if you do have any kind of correspondence with your MP, write to them today. Call for Leveson 2, saying this can't happen again. This can't happen again. So if you've got time to do that, that would be great. Okay, my friends, like I say, have a great day. Have a great rest of the day. I'll see you either tonight, we'll do a little show together, or we might do a show tomorrow. It'd be great to see you all in the chat again. And as soon as we get this new updated WhatsApp thing, so we can have a WhatsApp group together, everyone who's a member of this channel will be free to join the WhatsApp group. You can be able to contact me directly before shows and stuff like that for show ideas, things to talk about. And that's really helpful. I've already got a WhatsApp group with my other friends who I do the shows with, like Maximilian and Femi and people like that. And we share news stories, so we know what we're going to be talking about in our videos and things. So anything like that is always really useful. So yeah, hopefully that'll get going in the next month. I don't know. I've got to wait till WhatsApp gives the go ahead. But yeah, that'll be an exciting reason to join the channel as well, which is always an option. Always an option. Anyway, thanks for watching. Until next time, hello, good evening, welcome.